Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Brett Roll. Alright, we are on day 2 of our tour of Johnson Space Center. We're going to go on one of the rocket park tours today, and this should be pretty fun. So let's go, this is going to be great. Alright, after a brief tram ride, we're over at Rocket Park now. First thing we're looking at is this. This is a Mercury Redstone rocket. It was one of the first rockets that was used to bring men into space. This basically accommodated a single passenger. So in 1961, this is the type of rocket that launched Gus Grissom and Alan Shepard into space. No real amenities on that one, but still very, very cool. Alright, this is an H-1 rocket engine here. This was used on the early Saturn missions, the Saturn 1 and Saturn 1B missions. It actually became the prerequisite to what would be the engines used on the Saturn V missions. This was used early on, and doesn't really look that big, but apparently there were 8 of them, and these were able to lift some of the earliest rockets into space. Alright, this is a J2 rocket engine. This was used on some of the Saturn V missions on the Stage 2 and Stage 3 rockets. You had the Stage 1 rocket, which is the one that lifted it off the launch pad, and then Stage 2 and Stage 3 rockets blasted the thing into space. So this was secondary rocket engine, and like I said, it was used in the Saturn V missions, and definitely a very important part. These are significantly larger than the rocket engine we looked at before, and then they get even bigger than that. Look at this one. Looks like a bird's using it as a birdhouse. Hey, whatever works, right? And this one is the F1 engine. This was actually the engine that was used on the Saturn V rockets. And they called it the Saturn V because there actually were 5 of them, of these things firing all at once. This was the first stage rocket that lifted the rocket off of the launch pad and put man on the moon. Alright, this is kind of cool. This is actually the main rocket you see here is just a display model, but what we're really looking at is the thing way at the top up there. This was called, this was a BP-22 rocket, sometimes called the Little Joe 2. Basically, its job was, in the event of an emergency, those little rockets at the top there fired, and it would lift the crew capsule off the top of the rocket so that they could escape. In fact, here's a picture of one of kind of the idea here going on. The first rocket, the one that we're looking at here, was actually used for test purposes, just to verify that the whole thing would work. And so they'd launch this thing and then do some tests in the early 60s to lift the crew capsule off of the rocket in the event of an emergency. So yeah, they call this safety first. But supposedly the good stuff is in here. Wow, and they aren't kidding. This is a Saturn V rocket actually laying on its side. They were saying during the trip in here that this is the only flight-worthy Saturn V rocket in the world. Basically, I guess they made it from pieces of several other rockets. Look at the size of that thing. I don't think the camera's even doing a good job of kind of, you know, making you see how big that thing is. That one engine itself is probably 15 feet in diameter, and it's probably 50 to 75 feet to the top there. And it runs the entire length of this building. Look at how far that building goes down there. That is crazy. It's amazing how big that thing is. And I guess they got up here the different rockets that are the different missions that were on there, on this type of a rocket. Apollo 1, Apollo 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. That's insane. I mean, you think about stuff like this and you think of how big this is, but you don't really get the idea how big it is until you actually see it in person. This thing is massive. And this is just the first stage here. We haven't even gotten to the second or third stage yet. And I'm going to walk the whole length of this thing just to kind of give you an idea how far this goes. See, now we've gotten to the end of the first stage, and there's the second stage. So the point of the first stage is you get the launch vehicle off the ground, and then the first stage is cast away, and then the second stage rocket comes on, and it takes the second part of the journey. And we're going to continue walking this here.
Not knowing how to feel
The problem is I can't get far enough away from the rocket in order to take the whole thing in on the camera. The camera just doesn't have wide enough of a lens.
That's the direct quote.
And now we're past the second stage, and this is the third stage rocket. And so when the second one, the fuel is used up, it's cast away, and the third stage kicks in. And then we get to, this is the module that the crew rides in. I don't think this is a rocket. This is just something that mounts the crew capsule to the third stage, because there doesn't appear to be any engines in there. And then we get to the other end here, and that's the crew capsule right there. And then you remember I was talking about those safety rockets? In the event of an emergency, those fire, and it will lift the crew capsule off of the connector piece here, and hopefully bring this all back down. So yeah, that part of the rocket, that's where the crew is. It's insane. You just don't see things that are this big very often. Yeah, just to put things into perspective, this room is probably the length of a football field, maybe longer. That is intense. Now it seems like this side of the rocket maybe allows you to get a little further away from it, so I'm going to try and walk the whole length of the rocket again, and so you can see the whole thing. So like I said, there's the crew capsule and the escape rocket. This seems to be the piece that interfaces to the third stage. You can actually see the fuel tank inside the third stage there. That's kind of cool. That thing is filled with a liquid fuel, and when that fuel is expended, then that rocket is used up. And as you move along in the different stages and get to the lower stage numbers, the rockets get larger and larger and larger, because one, you're dealing with more energy to get off the ground initially, because you're closer to the ground. You also have a thicker atmosphere, and so it takes more power to get you going. And then once you get going, then you just got to continue the speed here. All right, so this kind of shows you a little bit better how it works. You can see stage 1 rocket right there. That gets you off the ground. And you can see the image right here. Then that's jettisoned. Then stage 2 rocket kicks in. When that's expended, then the stage 3 rocket kicks in. And this is the stage 3 rocket right here. And they're saying it's basically the fuel on this is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. So yeah, a lot of explosive power there. First burn time about 3 minutes. Second burn time about 5 minutes. So this is the interface between the second and third stage, and it seems to me, initially it seemed to me that the engine kind of fit into there, but apparently there's a cone piece that's missing that covers this up so that you protect the rocket, because obviously if that thing's welded there, you can't have the rocket and a lot of the guts of it here inside there, because how do you get it out when you're ready to launch? So they connect this piece to this piece with just a skin, and that gets disposed of also. That's insane. Look at the size of that thing. And that's just a little part. Yeah, just to put things into perspective, that little thing sticking out there, that's about the height of my head. I'm 6'3" tall, and that thing goes way, way, way up there. Okay, so this is the second stage here, and this has got some good information here. Basically, I went to Cape Canaveral once many, many years ago, and one of the things that I was amazed about is that the whole platform that the rocket is on is moved from the vehicle assembly area to the launch pad on rail tracks, and it takes about 6 hours to transport the rocket from the vehicle assembly area to the launch pad, because it moves about 1 mile an hour, and it's about a three and a half mile trip. And so it goes. They move it very slowly, and somebody just kind of walks along. A bunch of people walk along to make sure that nothing is wrong. It's amazing. That whole thing moves as a single unit. And once again, the fuel in here is liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and it seems to be in. I think like the other one. I think they're both fired at the same time. It's just the tanks are together, and this one's got about a 6-minute burn time. So from once it disconnects from the first stage, you get about 6 minutes, and then this one burns out. And then once again, this is the interface between the first and the second stage, and there must be another shroud, something that covers this up, because once again, those are not going to fit into there. But like I said, we keep getting bigger and bigger. This is larger diameter than the stage 3, which is down there, and then we get to the stage 1, which is twice the length of stage 2. All right, so I have to apologize. That video kind of came to an unceremonious end. Turns out that was the moment the camera decided that, okay, that's it. I don't have any more room on this card. And we ran out of room. So, I guess in the future, if I'm going to do epic videos like these, I'm going to have to maybe carry a backup SD card the way I carried backup batteries. I went through 3 batteries on that too. The problem is, I shot both of the Johnson Space Center videos on the same trip. And so it wasn't actually 2 days, and if I went out to unload the contents of the card, I would have had to pay admission to get back in again, and I probably should have done that, but it was also coming to the end of the day for Rocket Park visit, and if I'd waited too much longer to get in line, I would have missed it out altogether. And the truth is, you saw everything for the most part that you were going to see. All I wanted to do is take one more trip past the other side of the stage 1 booster and show you that, and then I'd shown you everything anyway. So apologize for the early ending, but I did have a blast doing that. That rocket was amazing. I've never seen anything that big, and especially not something that big that can not only fly but fly into space. That thing was amazing. If you ever get a chance, go down to the Johnson Space Center. It's definitely worth a look. I made the mistake of going on a Sunday. I think in the future I'd probably go on a weekday, probably get fewer crowds and stuff like that, but whatever. I got to see it. That both of those days were really great. I'm glad I did it, and I hope you enjoyed them. So I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.